Yo, how's it going? This will be third word in the definition of obedience. We got sacrifice. Okay, sacrifice. True obedience involves faithful action that requires sacrifice. Okay, so when you spend your time, like you got investment. That's a word that's very much akin to sacrifice. Okay, so I invest my time punching the clock to get the check. I take the check. I buy provisions for my household, food, shelter, water, all this kind of stuff. Okay, sacrifice is when there's been a disaster, and instead of buying the food that I need, I take that money and I drop ship via Amazon to the disaster victims because I can't afford to take off of work, right? So I find the outfit that's got the stuff set up, blah, 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 click, clack. The food I was going to eat over the weekend, that money would have cost me X amount. I put X amount over here to the Amazons. The Amazons deliver the needed goods to the disaster victims. Okay, so that's a sacrifice. Now, uh, as I'm being obedient, like I'll just feel this tug. It just happens to me all the time. I'll feel a tug to do something, and like right now, literally in this season, I'm a go and do kind of guy. I'm a real hands-on kind of guy, and then in this season, I am forced to sit here. I sat for 2 days in one spot, and I'm sitting here for 2 days. I'm not at home. I'm in a parking lot. I know I could be hands and feet on the ground in a disaster. I, I've cleaned up after hurricanes and tornadoes and all kinds of stuff. And like I did that for a living for a long time. In this season, I'm like truck driver, right? So I'm like, well, at least maybe I should just drive over there and take them some stuff or whatever. But that's not the seasons God's called me to right now. So for me, the sacrifice is not going. You know what I mean? My sacrifice right now is I'm not at home taking care of my business. I'm not in the disaster zone taking care of God's business, but He's got me here for some reason, right? So I'm just like, what am I supposed to be doing here? You know? So I figure I'd make a series of videos about obedience, but like it took 4 or 5, it took 7 days to get to this point, and 4 of them being stranded basically. Uh, for me to be to like what is obedience or whatever like that, and then in this series we're learning how to use the device. So device. Okay, so we got our biblical definition of whatever we type that in, blah blah blah. Okay, so now we're over here to sacrifice, right? So we're gonna click on this thing up here. We'll back out of this one. And we'll add sacrifice. Okay. The act of offering something to God as a way to approach Him, express gratitude, or ask for forgiveness. The meaning of sacrifice can vary depending upon the context. Okay. So you got this ritualized slaughter. In Hebrew, sacrifice is often a ritualized killing of animals or humans or process of non-meat eating items like grain, wine, olive, and gold, giving to God. In the Bible, sacrifice can also mean giving up one's time, energy, and possessions. Living sacrifice, in Romans 12:1, a Bible encourages people to live their lives as a living sacrifice that is pleasing to God. You got blood atonement. That's a big deal. In the law of Moses, sacrifice was killing of an animal by a priest as a blood atonement for sin, which that's a real deal. And that's like the law of atonement. Like, see how it says sacrifice was the killing of an animal by a priest. That's why Jesus was a priest forever, which is eternal. And then in the line of Melchizedek, a man without beginning or end, which is also eternal. but was also, that was the high priest that Abram gave a tithe to. And then blood atonement for sin. Jesus died for us. You know what I mean? That is enormous. That is enormous. So this whole thing about Jesus died for us, it's legalistic. And it's a works-based legal requirement. So, I mean, that gets a lot of people wrapped up around the axles. Okay, Hebrew word for sacrifice is korban, which means something brought forward or offering. The English word sacrifice comes from the Latin word sacrifice, which is a combination of saucer, sacred or holy, and faris, to make. Okay, and then you can go down here, sacrifice, Christian ideas, and all this kind of stuff. And then you got chapter 26. What is this? You know what I mean? So here's some people down here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Okay, so that's some stuff that you can look at. I'm going to tell you to read the Bible. So let's this right here is incredible. The word sacrifice is korban. Okay, now here's a crazy part. My son is named Corbin. Okay, and then I remember, boy, it was a hard time, and I held up my son at the church, and I was like, Lord, whatever it takes for this boy to not have such a hard life. You know what I mean? And then I'm reading this right now. It says something brought forward or offering. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, there's a whole backstory to that. We won't get into that right now. But sacrifice, maybe we will get into that. My first son died. I married a woman that had a kid and already had an abortion. And then Dylan passed away. He had something wrong with his guts and didn't make it through the surgery. Well, 8 years later, I found out that there was a car wreck, right? Like 2 years before I was around. So technically, he was my stepson or whatever. Anyway, but he passed away. But by the time he passed away, me and the woman had a child together. And then she was pregnant with another child, which happened to be my son. She was pregnant. My daughter was already there. But then there was my son. So then there was like this whole thing or whatever. And, you know, I was a rowdy roofer or whatever. Didn't have much work in the wintertime. So we were poor. And then where I'm from, they got this habit of stealing children because that's what they do in Oklahoma. Like, they especially the Indian kids, they steal them. That's been going on for like 200 years. It's really wild when you look into it. I mean, like, seriously, it'll make you mad. Anyway, to stay out of the system, to keep my living children from being in the system, I signed my rights over to my wife's brother and his wife. That way they would stay in the family or whatever like that. And then, so that whole thing went on. And then she was pregnant and everything. And then she had the baby and all that kind of stuff. And then I was at work or whatever. And I was coming home from work. And we just stopped at this church, right? And just walked in. And I had just enough money. It was a really crappy little factory job, right? And in Oklahoma back then, factories paid like $6 an hour. Okay, so we had this van, pulled up in the van or whatever, and she just waited in the car, and I went in there, and I just held this kid up, you know what I mean? I hold myself up, I'm just like, God, whatever it takes, you know what I mean? I was just like begging God for things to work out. And then I kept like $10 for gas or whatever, and I put the rest of the little deal or whatever, and I left. And which it was amazing the door was even unlocked, you know. And then of course his name's Corbin, but we spell it with a K, which right here, Corbin, something brought forward or offering. You know what I mean? So it's just like a trip, man. Like my whole life's been a trip. And I call it stumbling into righteousness because I didn't know that. Like I literally just read that. You know, there's a part of the Bible that talks about it, but it's a little bit different the way it says it. Anyway, God God will make a way. Every time He makes a way. Okay, so then they come and took the kid, and then like the next day, I was at work. The next day, I get a call. She's crying. Oh, they come and take the baby. Blah blah blah. This stuff. I was like, it'll be all right, whatever. So I leave work and come and console her and everything like that. And he got to go be with the kinfolk, which is where they were raised. You know what I mean? Which kept them out of the system. So, when I say I learned the Bible the hard way and these things are for real, like if you find yourself in some situation where you're like, this is epically horrible, God is still with you. This is still plan A. I don't care if your house got washed away in a flood, you lost 13 family members, and the town is gone, or the storm surge, or a bomb landed in a field in Lebanon and killed your people, or whatever. If somebody was a military service member that took their own life, whatever tragedy you got going on, I'm telling you right now, it is still plan A. People have free will, and it is hard. I'm not lasting anything you've went through. I know death like you would. I hope you do not. I'll say that. And through the midst, God will make a way. He will make a way, and this is still plan A. It's got to get real bad for these people to repent. Okay, so our sacrifice right now of living in this day and age, October of 2024, and we see the crazy going on around us, that's so that some of these people that are horrifically hypnotized will be taken out of their hypnosis and brought into the kingdom. Some of these people that are coming from other countries are here to actually bring the gospel to us, the parts we forgot. I have seen a lot of stuff with the Mexicans where they are living pretty righteous or whatever like that. I see what's on their TV stuff from going down by the border, and I see what's on ours, and they're calm, squared away. Karen's freaking out. The two different things, the television programming is directly causing all of it. It's a form of hypnosis. So when you see these people that will go to church and have fellowship and dress up for God, not dress up to look better than the other ladies there and all this nonsense. You know what I mean? So as we get back to this fullness of obedience, and God is bringing back His word and bringing back His soldiers and giving us opportunity to walk in these things, the suffering is what brings us to the point of obedience, because we know it's the best way, and we get worked up, and we're just like rivers of living water pouring out of our bellies as we speak the words of God to the people. And it's just like, dude, this is epic. And it's so hard, man. It is so hard to be out here just sitting in this parking lot. So I guess I am set apart, knowing I could do so much, knowing I could be over here, I could help for them, I could do for that. But anyway, by me not having my children, I was like, perhaps I can do right by God, and then God will help them. Maybe I can help God and do Him a favor and maybe get a favor type of thing. It's how my, ignorant redneck head works. So I tried to be a good dude so God would help my kids, because I wasn't there for them. And I'm not there for the victims of this disaster. And I'm not there for my wife. I am here in a parking lot talking to a phone. So I know a little bit about sacrifice, I guess. But that's sacrifice. All right, Rock Hill. Go get them.